brother.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. And you're going to have to excuse me because I'm probably going to drop some profanity. I never mean to, but it just rolls sometimes. But you can see I think I might be a little dyslexic or something. I don't know, or attention deficit, ADD. But I got notes in my phone, notes on this card I just brought in. I got a page of notes here. But the reason I have all these notes is for one reason. It's because it's important to me when I speak at conferences or speak with leadership that, I want to talk about, I want to be real with you. It's not, it's great to be here in Region 8. And, when I say, good morning, UAW family, I mean, that's what I mean. I say family because that's what we are. And, but in Region 8, it feels even more like family to me, more like home. And I'll tell you why. I mean, my roots are here in Region 8. All four of my grandparents were born in Kentucky and Tennessee. Everything I know about the Union I learned as a kid growing up, Sunday dinners at my grandma's house, and lots of aunt and uncles and stuff that worked at GM. And every Sunday our discussions were all about what was going on in the factory. So I literally, from the time I could walk, that's literally was the story of my life. And so, actually sitting here talking about Gordy and his birthday this morning, I mean, I found out something else today. We may be related because we got his T-shirt. We must have the same mama. His T-shirt says, "Mama tried." But, and one thing, are there any first-timers here? I know I talked to a couple earlier this morning, but yeah, that is awesome. Awesome. I love seeing that, and the reason I like saying that is Director Smith, something else we have in common. He talked about starting out as a bylaws chair, and that was actually my first job at my local too. I was bylaws and education chair at my local, and I say that for one reason because when I hired in at the plant, I just wanted to go to meetings and be active and just understand what the union was and what was going on. And as you get more into it, you get more involved. I ended up being a chairman on the bylaws committee. But, the one thing I say is, and that just led to another thing. It led to me running for committee person. It led to me being shop chair for, multiple terms. Led to me being a national negotiator. Led to me being put on staff. But, when I hired in at Chrysler 30 years ago, I didn't have any intention of being a union rep. I just wanted a stable job. I just wanted to secure some security because I had a wife and a child, and we struggled. And that's really what I hired in for. I didn't have any agenda of I want to be a union rep. I didn't have any agenda when I became a rep that I want to be president of this union. And I say that for a reason because, I've sat where every one of you are sitting right now. Everybody up here has. Everyone in the IEB has sat where you're sitting right now. And that's the reason I say that is for this, because don't ever underestimate the value you bring to this union and where this path can take you. If you'd have told me 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, probably 5 years ago that I'd be president of this union one day, I would have probably laughed in your face. I mean, and that's, it's just, but over our journey, things happen. We get more involved and, and it's a calling. I believe everybody up here, I believe everyone in this room, it's a calling, man. You feel called to do this. And so, it's important for me, when I say, like I say, I take a lot of notes. I do a lot of writing. I was up till 1 a.m. this last night, just making some more notes on what I wanted to say today. And, because it's important to me to put a lot of things down because it's important to me to really go as in depth with you as I can about things and be real with you. It'd be easy for a president to walk in here and just say, welcome, good to see you. It's great to be in Region 8 and we're kicking ass and thanks for coming. But I think it's important to talk to you, about what we've done over the last year and 3 months, but also, I'm going to focus on that, a lot of the great things we've done, but I'm also going to talk about things that may not be comfortable to talk about. I mean, I'm going to talk about politics, and I know that's a divisive issue a lot of times, but you know what? It's our job to talk about politics, whether we agree all the time or not. We got to talk about it. I'm going to talk about I'm going to talk about this right now. I mean, everything wasn't sunshine and rainbows. I mean, with bargaining and stuff, we've been feeling our way through it. Like when we launched our Big Three contract campaign and ran that strike and the stand-up strike and developed all that, that was kind of a pilot to try to figure out how we move forward as a union everywhere else. And, I look at Mack Trucks. We went through, that contract and we didn't get the resources there that we should have had there right out the gate. And, that it was voted down by the membership. And, that's a reality. And, I'm not ashamed of that. I mean, look, members have a say. They have a right, to say what they think with a contract. And that's what a union's about. It's about democracy. But, I didn't look at that as a bad thing. I didn't look at it as like we did something wrong. We just got to look internally when we have issues. We got to reflect on it. We got to get in there and get to work, get with the committee, get with the leadership, and fix it. And that's what we did, And so we've had some struggles this year and the last year. But I'll tell you what, it's literally in my 30 years as a UAW member, it's by far been I've seen the most, and we've done more in this last year and a half than I've seen us do in decades, and I'm really proud of that. And that's not just me. That's the work of the leadership. That's the work of the membership. We put the membership front and center, and that is what this is about. That's what this movement's about. It's not just about, winning for ourselves. It's about winning for working class people everywhere. What we did with the Big Three contract and other contracts is we've raised, we forced those companies, the non-union OEMs, to raise the standard for their workers. That's power. And that's how we're going to build this union. So, when I talk about these things as I get into this, I'm going to be lengthy, just so you know. This ain't going to be a 10-minute speech. I may be an hour and a half by the time I get done. Sometimes I get off course and I ramble, but it's important to me, because I don't want you to see me as some person, well, hell, I'm in shorts today. I love that. I'm comfortable. I don't, that's who I am. I'm a working class person. I don't want you to see me as some person in a suit, in some far off office that you can't interact with, that you can't, talk to, and you can't be real with. So, that's what this is about for me. It's about meeting with you, giving you access to me, being real with you. And I'll be here all day today. When we're done this morning and getting in small groups, I'll be around all day. So look forward to talking to a lot of you, hearing what's going on. Definitely want to start off by thanking Director Smith and his leadership and his staff for their leadership. And I'll be honest with you, like when Director Smith talks about when he calls about, possibly taking somebody out on strike, and it's a regular occurrence in this region, and I'm damn proud of that. And but let me assure you one thing, like, it's not just the fact to say yes. The one thing I would say, it's easy for me to tell Director Smith yes when he calls me about taking somebody out on strike for one reason, because I trust Director Smith. I'll be honest with you, there's some people that may call me with that same request, and I have to do a little research. That's just reality. I mean, but I don't have to do that in this region. I believe in Director Smith and George and his team, and everything we've done from that point has been, they've done a great job. Under Director Smith's leadership, no matter the issue, Region 8 is leading the way. And Region 8 is a big reason and a big part of the massive success we've had over the last year and 3 months. When it came to Big Three bargaining, as I said yesterday, I mean, it was Kentucky Truck Plant at Ford, it was Arlington and Spring Hill at GM that were the hammer. That those, taking those plants out is what was a final blow to those companies, and got those agreements finished. That's power. You look at our record contract at Daimler Truck North America. I mean, again, man, that was another next step in the process of what we're trying to do with bargaining and how we bargain, was using the same philosophy and path we used with Big Three, running a campaign, getting people energized around the issues, putting an army of people in there to support the bargaining committee, and making it public, and it was very effective. We had a big organizing victory of 5,000 workers at the National Institute of Health in Washington, D.C. I mean, that's the thing, Big Three auto gets a lot of headlines because basically that's who the UAW was in their infancy. That's what people know. But, that's the one thing we got to do. We got to bring up every sector. It doesn't matter if you come from a 20-person local or a 10,000-person local. Every job's got to matter. Every local's got to matter, and that's how we got to lead this union. And, it ain't perfect yet by any means, but that's the mission and that's the goal. We want to make this better every time we get into bargaining somewhere, every step of the way, every time we organize. So, and then, again, you think about that. We organized 5,000 people at the National Institute of Health. I mean, you didn't see massive news stories in the national media and stuff about that. That's 5,000 new members. But, one thing I will talk about is, we organized, we finished the job at Volkswagen. We won that victory down there. I mean, that got major headlines. And the significance of the Volkswagen, was because, of the mantra that we can't organize the big automakers in the South. But at the end of the day, one victory is no more important than the other. I mean, it's growing this union, and that's how we got to look at this. And that's the thing, there's not too many weeks where Director Smith doesn't call me and doesn't reach out for approval for strike authorization, whether it's Penske or Metalsa or who it is, between 17 states in Region 8, it doesn't matter if it's in D.C., Texas, Florida, or everywhere in between those areas. If the companies don't come to the pump, I know that Director Smith and myself and our entire executive board is going to be there and have your back. And and this region is going to continue to lead the way because, we're doing great things down here, but we got a hell of a lot more to do, man. And organizing the South and organizing these big OEMs and battery work, and I'm going to get into that with my presentation before long. I'll show you some of that. And that's one thing I want to say, I'm going to talk about the Big Three fight some. I don't want this to be all about Big Three because, I understand that with members, and but it's important to tell that story and walk you through how we got there because that's the model we want to use everywhere we go now when we bargain and how we bargain. So, but when I took over, a little over a year ago, I really talked about culture change a lot. As a 30-year member, we're all taught to do things a certain way. We've done things the same way in a lot of ways over the years, and it's not that it's wrong. It's just, I just felt like we were stagnant as an organization, and I really said this for years, that, I just felt like we were irrelevant in the labor movement at that point. It's just, and it's not an indictment on anybody. It's just where we were. But, there's a movie called Moneyball. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but it's probably one of my favorite movies of all time now. And it's a story about the Oakland A's, Major League Baseball team. And there's a lot of great lessons in that movie. And it's really about culture change. And it's really the story of 2001, 2002, the Oakland A's and the manager of the organization was looking at the Oakland A's. If you don't know the story, the Yankees, they literally spend $150 million a year, on salaries and stuff for their team, and the Oakland A's had a budget of about 30 to 40 million. And so this new manager of the organization was trying to find a way to be able to compete with these teams that spend that big money, even though they don't have the resources. And, they came up with a way of evaluating talent, of overlooked talent. And it revolutionized the game of baseball. He was laughed at when he instituted it. He was made fun of when he instituted it, and they were mocked. And now every Major League Baseball organization, every team out there follows that model. And if they don't, they won't win. And so that is a great example of where we are as a union. Really wanted to shift the culture here, and get to a membership-driven union. This isn't about the leadership. This doesn't need to be a top-down thing. This has got to be an organization that runs from the ground level up. And that's the mission. And, putting the members in the driver's seat. When we started this out, that's the reason, Big Three was a big part of this, because literally when I was elected, we were already in the planning stages for Big Three bargaining. And so, we approached that bargaining entirely different. And really, it was just, I had a vision of where I thought we needed to go as a union, but, I obviously had to bring in some people to help with that, because I had to get some better strategy behind it, how we get there. And I'll get to those people in a little bit. But the one thing that we did, laying the foundation for where we want to go in the future, how we do things as a union, we came up, with the member demands, held a planning retreat with the vice presidents and some of our team, and we spent a week really trying to break down how we got to get where we got to get. We ran our first ever contract campaign, and and even that, we were feeling our way through it, because we didn't bargain like this in the past, where we had rallies and stuff. But the interesting thing with that contract campaign was we had a goal of holding 14 actions nationwide before the contract deadline. But we reached out to regional directors and everyone, reached out to locals, and just asked locals to start planning actions and doing things on their own, just to plan a practice picket or a rally or whatever. There were over 140 actions held by the time the deadline hit. I mean, our goal was 14, and we had over 140. That's what happens when you put the membership in charge and you let people get creative and do their own thing. And we shifted back to a philosophy. One thing I always hated in bargaining was, we had a contract deadline of September 14th, but it really never meant a whole lot, because it seemed like every time we got to the 14th, the companies kind of slow walked bargaining up till that point, and then they got serious in the last week. So, we changed that. We were very upfront with the companies before we started bargaining and said, this is not a reference point, it's a deadline. If you do not meet our demands by that deadline, there will be repercussions. And I don't think the companies took us serious in that, but I don't think they took us serious in a lot of things we were saying. But, one thing we are is we're going to act with integrity, and I'm a man of my word, and so is this organization, and we kept our word. We came up with a stand-up strike strategy, which has really taken root globally. We literally have had unions all over this world that came and visited us on the picket line, supported us. I mean, Director Smith will tell you, he went to Germany recently. I've been over to overseas, meeting with unions all over the globe, everywhere from Mexico to Brazil to Australia to freaking Europe to the Philippines. We've had leaders from all over the world come to Detroit and want to meet with us to talk about what we're doing and use that as a model. And that's how we're going to win this fight. We can't just fight this battle here in America. We got to win this battle globally. We're taking on global corporations, and the only way we're going to defeat global greed is if we act globally as working class people. So that's the long-term goal. We revamped our PR department. We relabeled it communications, and there's a reason we did that. We brought in some new people. But, we utilize social media, to get messaging out, to get in front of things and talk about our issues and make it public. We didn't do a good job in the past of getting out in front of these companies. The companies were always putting the narrative out there in these fights, crying how poor they were and how they couldn't afford this shit and everything else. And we know that's all a bunch of crap. So, we were very public and open about this, putting our issues out there. And the one thing that did is it got the public on our side. And the reason the public got on our side is because 90% of the publics live in the same reality that we're all living as working class people. They're scraping to get by paycheck to paycheck while the corporations are running away with all the profits. And we struck all three companies simultaneously for the first time. They didn't know what hit them. That played great dividends because we were playing, usually the companies will pit plant against plant and different shit like that. We were pitting company against company. We'd literally get something at Ford and walk into GM and Stellantis and say, well, Ford did this, why aren't you doing it? And we did the same thing vice versa with other companies. So, instead of us being played against each other, we're putting them against each other. Look, when I took over, it's our first ever direct election. I mean, I'll never forget walking into my first day as president was the bargaining convention. I mean, literally the opening of the bargaining convention that I had no planning with, no input into, had no agenda, didn't know shit when I walked into that meeting, other than I was president. It was baptism by fire, but the election had just ended. I knew it wasn't going to be an easy thing because obviously there was disappointed people, and that's just the reality of a democratic election. But, that's the one thing we did. The night before that, when I was sworn in that Sunday, we sat down with the executive board. We all went in my office in the conference room, and I just told them, look, election's over. We got to put this shit behind us, and we got to move forward. If we don't, the world is watching what we're doing. Everyone's watching, and they want us to fail. And so, this board made a commitment, and, the majority of us are living up to that commitment, and we're going to continue to do that. But, the interesting part is when we launched this campaign, even when I took over, there was a lot of doubters. When we ran our first contract campaign, there were doubters. With our demands, the media was, saying all kinds of crap about us, how we were crazy for what we were demanding. When we talked about organizing the South, we were laughed at, made fun of. All I heard, literally, and all I've heard a lot in my career, but especially since I was elected from the talking heads and stuff, was what we can't do. I heard this a lot when I was running for this job, and even after we got elected, that we can't bargain for retirees. I heard that we can't bring the EV battery work under our master agreements, that we can't end wage tiers, that the companies can't afford massive pay increases. We delivered on every one of those things. We showed that we can do those things. And as we endeavored on organizing the South, same thing. We went back to Volkswagen, and all the talking heads were saying every time they talked to me was that you can't organize in the South. Every time I do an interview, I'd get a cynical comment and an eye roll saying, do you really think you can organize in the South? You've never been able to do that. We showed that we can. Those results are in. April 19th in Chattanooga at Volkswagen, we proved that we can organize the OEMs in the South, and we're going to continue to win in the South. Yeah. So one of the things in the mission I've been on is to eliminate two words from our vocabulary, the word can't and fear, because that's how we lose. Everybody tells us what we can't do. Anytime you say you're going to do something different, the media and everybody's going to be out there saying you can't do it. And the other side is going to be putting fear in your minds to make you afraid of trying to do it. When you put bold demands out there, when you go to organize somewhere where they're unorganized, all these companies, that's their playbook. Fear is how they manipulate people. They want to make you afraid of it. They want to threaten you. They want to tell you if you do this, the plant may close. You got politicians coming in saying if you do this, we're not going to approve funding for you. It's all about making you afraid, making working class people afraid of fighting for their fair share. We cannot be afraid of this stuff. We got to go into it all out. So that's one thing I want to make real clear to you guys. Things that I'm doing as president and we're doing as a leadership. This isn't about me. Everything we do is about the membership. And it's not just about the membership. It's about the entire UAW, and not just the UAW. It's about humanity. Our fight is not just a fight. It's not every time I would speak in the Big Three campaign and since then, every time I speak to the media, I don't just say the UAW. I say the working class. Because it don't matter if you're union or not. Our issues are the same, and this fight is the same. We live in a time of massive wealth inequality, bigger than it was in the Great Depression. And it's our obligation, organized labor has to lead the fight out of that. That's our obligation. So, a lot of the media and some of the talking heads now, they talk about what we did and what we've done in the last year. But I always tell them every time I speak that we're just getting started. This is just a start. It's a beginning. we're not going to sit back. I mean, I've had people say, after the big three thing, are you just going to chill out now? You won big there. It's like, brother, we're keeping full throttle. We're putting the pedal to the metal. And we're going to keep going. And we got a lot more to do. It doesn't stop because of one win. Walter Reuther talked about this. One of the biggest risks to success in UAW is complacency and leadership getting comfortable because, we win, we have success, and we just rest on the laurels of the past. We cannot do that. We got to keep the foot to the throttle and keep rolling, and that is what we're doing. We are rolling. We've had win after win, and we're going to continue to do that. And just to talk about success, we have a win in bargaining, but literally, you look at the big three, look at the actions of the companies, right after that. As soon as we bargain those great contracts, I mean, hell, even before some of them were ratified, I mean, the companies were already screaming about we're going to have to raise the price of vehicles, and we may have to lay off people or move product. That's all bullshit, complete bullshit. What they don't talk about is that they raised prices. The 4 years previous to our bargaining, they raised prices by 35%. 35%. It wasn't because of our contracts. It wasn't because our wages went up. It's because of two words, corporate greed. And it's taken advantage of a pandemic, and it's consumer price gouging, because that's what caused inflation. All this bullshit people try to put out there about policy caused inflation. It wasn't policy that caused this inflation. It was corporate greed and consumer price gouging. They jacked the prices up on everything because they were able to do it, and there were no controls in place to stop it. So understand that when you hear about people crying about President Biden and saying, the inflation, he didn't bring inflation in. Consumer price gouging and freaking corporate greed brought it in, and that's what we got to talk truth to that. You look at GM's actions as they were crying about the cost of our agreement. Literally 2 weeks after the contract was ratified, they paid out $10 billion in dividends and stock buybacks, more than the entire cost of our contract. And not to be short, a few weeks ago, they announced another $6 billion. $16 billion in buybacks and dividends GM's paid out in 8 months. $16 billion. And then on top of that, when they cried about our contract and how expensive it was going to be and how hard it's going to be for them to move forward, you saw their earnings in the first quarter. They exceeded expectations. They exceeded reports, and they've raised what their expectations are for the year now, after we bargained a record contract. So we've got to speak facts. We got to speak truth in everything that we do, and that's one thing we have done since this board's taken over. In our contract campaigns, no matter where it's been, whether it's Daimler, whether it's Big Three, wherever it is, we use facts. And the facts tell a really true story, a telling story about corporate greed, runaway corporate greed, how they're keeping all the profits, and the workers keep getting screwed. Everyone understands that. That resonates with everybody. And that's what we're trying to get politicians to understand, is you want to get elected, you better start listening to working class people, because that's the people that vote. And you better start understanding those are the issues that matter to them. You look at Stellantis CEO Carlos Tavares, as he's cutting and gutting Stellantis right now and trying to lay people off. Didn't stop him, and he's crying about cost of the EV transition. It didn't stop him from giving himself a 56% pay increase this year. He went from $23 million to $39 million. It's obscene. It's criminal. Freaking criminal. And here are the facts. These companies don't have to raise the price of cars 1 penny. They don't have to do one damn thing with the contracts we bargained, and they will still make billions of dollars in profits. That is a fact. So we got to speak truth to that. When people are saying this shit about our contracts or about how this is going to affect this and that, it doesn't. We got to speak truth to that. That's one thing I've said to these companies. I don't make a lot of promises, but I'll tell you guys this. Let me assure you one thing. I mean, as long as I'm president of this union, no matter the sector, when companies come for us, when companies try to take advantage of us, I can guarantee you this board, if they don't take care of our members and honor their commitments, we're going to oblige them. They're going to fight they've never had. And that's what we're here for. I don't like bullies, and I don't like being bullied. And there's only one way you beat a bully, and that's you punch them in the fucking mouth. And I apologize for my language. Sorry. But you know,
that needs to be on a shirt. T-shirts. Yes.
But you know, there's a saying, you know, there's a saying out there that, you know, whenever something good is happening, something bad's trying to stop it. And it's true. It's never more true in what we're doing. You know, when you're taking on the billionaire class and the corporate class and you're winning, trust me, they're not going to take it lying down. And you know, they're coming after us. And you know, you're going to see us getting attacked. You're going to read shit in the media, and you're going to see, you know, whatever, they're going to pull anything they can out of their ass to try to make people, again, doubt leadership, to make you afraid and make you think this isn't the right path. This is the right path. And I'll stand behind everything I've done as president. I'll stand behind everything this board has done since we've been in place. So don't let doubt creep in. Don't let the other side make you afraid of what we're doing. We are on the right path. We got to stay on track and keep doing what we're doing. So I'm going to walk you through, you know, a few. Oh, sure, whatever. Oh.
Yeah, there we go.
I got a few slides I put together. Well, a few. I got a lot actually, but again, I'm visual. You know, I like being talked to, but I also like you know, having visuals and stuff so I can actually understand things better. And you know, so I'm going to walk you through some of the things we've done in the last year. You know, and particularly, you know, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we did with the Big Three and the takeaways from it. Not because I want to talk about Big Three, but because I want you to understand the model we're going to follow going forward in bargaining everywhere. You know, and this is, you know, some of the takeaways. You know, from the Big Three agreement. Each agreement was worth more than 4 times each company's 2019 agreement. You know, they had more value in guaranteed wage increases just for the current traditional members than the entire value of the 3 2019 agreements combined. They included $3.5+ billion in improvements for temp workers, $3+ billion addressing retirement security. $1+ billion was spent on ending the 2-tier wage, and over $1 billion was spent on current retirees when people said we couldn't bargain for retirees. You know, and you look at that bottom part, you know, total wage increases with cost of living. I mean, on average, you know, trades go up about 37%, production up over 33%. The starting rate went up over 70%, and the lowest paid temps, if they were just starting out by the end of the agreement, would go up 150% to get them to full pay. I mean, that's massive. And I'll tell you how we got here. So we had that retreat at Black Lake. You know, we had a great team. You know, our research department, you know, they do a lot of this work. And so we use research in everything we're doing. The Daimler fight, every fight we have, we use our research team to do background on the companies, and I'll get into that in a few. But this is something that was really telling for us about where we've been as a nation in the last decade. So we were looking at this at Black Lake. We had this retreat to get a strategy together. This was a 2007 collective bargaining agreement in the Big Three. The starting rate in 2007 was $19.60 an hour, which is $28.68 in today's dollars. But $19.60 an hour was a starting rate in 2007. We had a 3-year progression to full pay. At that time was $28. We had cost of living allowance in place. We had pensions, and we had health care for all. Now you fast forward to 2019, 12 years later, after a recession and after the companies were making record profits again. So 12 years later, we went from $19.60 an hour at starting rate to $18.04. We went backwards. We went from a 3-year progression to an 8-year progression. We lost cost of living allowance. And pensions were replaced by 401ks and a small health care contribution. So you think about that, over 12 years, we went backwards that far. And if you look at from 19 back about 5 to 6 years, these companies were making profits. They weren't hurting for money. So that's how we, came up with our agenda of what we needed to do to address, wages, retirement security, and all that. Now, where we ended up, the starting rate by the end of the agreement will be at over $28 an hour. We're back to a 3-year progression, which next contract we'll try to eliminate it altogether. Cost of living was reinstated. And we didn't get pensions back for everybody, but we did get an increase in the multiplier for people that have it, and we also got an increase in the 401k amount from 6% to 10%, which was, one of the highest contributions we have right now. I mean, we're not stopping there. We're going to continue to build on this, but literally we had so many issues we're trying to address in one contract. I mean, and this was very lucrative. These contracts are very lucrative, and I'll get to that in a second. But, there's a lot of debate with people about, are strikes worth it, and do strikes work? This slide tells it all. So the day we launched the stand-up strike on September 15th, Ford, who was the first to get an agreement, what was on the table the day we went on strike to the time we settled was a 60% increase. Stellantis, because they were second, got more. A big difference in Stellantis, too, was they had 6,000 temporary workers. The other two didn't really have that many, so that's a big reason why you see a higher jump. But what was on the table at Stellantis went up 101% from the day we went on strike. And when you got to GM, because of the retirees at GM has over 300,000 retirees. So when you talk about bargaining a bonus for retirees at GM, that was a massive cost. And it was a big deal. And I'll tell you, the company tried to screw us on that. They were, till the last day, they were trying to not pay the surviving spouses the bonus. And we flat out told them, either you pay them, I'm gonna catch myself. Either you pay them the bonus or we're taking the whole damn company out, and they agreed to do it. But, because we're not gonna leave, there was 100,000 surviving spouses of retirees in GM, and we were not gonna leave those people behind. But it went over 143% from what was on the table. So when you combine all three of those, what was on the table from the day we went on strike to the day it ended, we had 93% increase. So that shows you the effectiveness of strikes. And something else, that got a lot of highlights last year, when you looked at UPS, the Teamsters and UPS, which was a massive contract and a really big deal, they got a lot of headlines because it was worth $30 billion, what they bargained for. When you compare what we did in Big Three to the Teamsters, ours was $23 billion, theirs was $30 billion. But you look at the difference, our contract represented about 145,000 workers, theirs represented 340,000. It's a 4.6-year contract for us, a 5-year contract for them. The annual value per member of what went up was $34,000 at the UAW versus $17,000 for the UPS workers. And it's not meant like a competition, it's just to give you a vision to see like how big that contract was, because that Teamsters contract was a hell of a contract. And so this has become our, like I said, our platform and our process moving forward in other bargaining. You talk about strike impacts. On the right side of this, you see the stock price of the companies. It was going down as we were striking, which affected the companies. And then you also look at lost vehicle production at each of the three. And that doesn't take into account, at GM and at Stellantis, we struck the CCAs and the parts depots, which that's not on here, but that really impacted them also. So, there was a massive impact with lost production and then also stock prices. But, here's another result of the strike. What we call the UAW bump. Right away after bargaining, within a couple weeks, Toyota gave workers a 9% increase, and they reduced their 8-year progression to 4 years. And, why do they do that? You're damn right, they don't want the union in there. They're worried members are going to get smart and stand up for themselves. And it wasn't just Toyota. We saw it happen at Hyundai, at Honda. Everybody started doing it. So So I told our team, excuse me. So I told our team, we're going to claim this, we're going to own it. We're not going to let these companies give a raise and play the nice guy. We're going to claim it, we're going to own it, we're going to call it the UAW bump because that's what it is. The reason they paid these increases is because of what we did, because of our fight. So we call it UAW, you are welcome. And that's what we tell these workers every time we meet with them. And, you know, and you look at, you look at the bottom of that chart, you know, comparing a GM worker and a Toyota employee. You know, if you look at 2023, I mean, currently it's about a 16% difference. But watch each year of that agreement as it goes forward, where Toyota will be by 2026 and where we're at. It's a 42% difference in what they're making. You know, and that's how we're going to win in organizing. I said this a lot when I campaigned for this job, and bargaining and organizing go hand in hand. When you bargain good contracts, people want to be a part of that. You know, Volkswagen, the fight at Volkswagen, you know, we talked to workers there a lot about this. I mean, literally, when you compared the GM workers to the Volkswagen employees, we had a 3-year progression, they have a 7-year progression. You know, at the beginning, it's a 19% difference in 2023, but by the time you get to 2027, it's a 57% difference in what we're making versus what they'll be making. Now, naturally, that's going to change because we're bargaining a contract there now, so, you know, that's going to change for them because they did organize. So that, you know, this is how we're going to win. And that's one thing I've been clear about. The days of complacency in this union are over. If you're in these jobs to coast, you're in it for the wrong reasons. And at the national level, I can assure you, if you're in these jobs to coast, you won't be around very long. We're here to work. We're here to deliver for the membership. But that's the one thing, you know, people have been asking me throughout, you know, this past year. A lot of the media's been asking, like, what I'm most proud of or what we've bargained for, what victory we've had that I'm most proud of. But I'll tell you the thing I'm most proud of in this past year and 3 months is this. My first day in office, you know, if those of you that were at the bargaining convention, I mean, it was a pretty divided house, you know, and that's just the reality of it. But, you know, the thing I'm really proud of is over this past year is I've seen this membership come together and unify like I've never seen it in my 30 years. And it don't mean we're perfect, but we're together. And that's how we win. We win by being a united movement. Like I said, it don't mean we're going to agree on everything all the time. It don't mean, you know, we're still going to have disagreements. But at the end of the day, we got to know at the end of the day, we got the same mission. We're on the same team here, and we're going to keep fighting. And so I'm very proud. That's the thing I'm most proud of right now is this union is united. You know, so another thing we do, I talked about research and the work they do. I really want to, you know, show you this because this is with our research department. You know, these are the things that they do. I mean, they support us in everything we do in bargaining and organizing. They look at the non-union companies. They research them. They support our communications team. They provide them with facts and stuff so we can create slides and stuff to put out there, do videos and stuff. They support our political action information. They break down states by state, the auto landscape and the businesses we represent landscape. They analyze all the industries we represent. They look at supply chains, you know, and they really go to town on this stuff and everything from production and sales numbers to subsidies these companies get. You know, health and safety issues, you know, ties to other UAW employers. I mean, these are just a sample of some of the things they do. And you look at this is how they support our communications team. You know, a lot of these things you've seen in the Big Three fight and the Daimler truck fight, all these charts, all this information came, you know, from our research department. You know, you look at the one, I love the one on, you know, Ford makes it more at Kentucky Truck Plant in 1 minute than a new permanent hire makes in an entire year. I mean, $48,000 a minute in revenue. You know, when you hit a plant like that, it's a big deal. You know, CEO pay, you know, Carlos Tavares jumped 72% since 2019. Now he gave himself another 56% increase while he's crying about money and how we got to cut cost. You know, people talk a lot about organizing and why we're investing as much as we are in organizing. You know, and people talk about, there's this debate about battery and ice and all that stuff, you know, and I get it, I understand it, but we can't not go after this battery work. If we do not bring it under us and we continue migrating there, you know, 20,000 of our members in auto produce transmissions and engines and powertrain work. They'd be gone. So we have to go after this work. And I want to show you why it's important, why we organize this. You know, you look right now, this is the current state. There's 6 battery plants producing batteries right now in the U.S. We represent one of them, the Altium plant in Lordstown, Ohio. We just bargained a hell of an agreement there that's going to set the standard now for the battery industry. That's going to be a key for us organizing the battery industry. You know, we're going to take it to Spring Hill. Where, you know, we're laying the groundwork now, getting ready to lay the groundwork for that. And but let me assure you, yeah. But getting that under our master agreement was key because, you know, we bargained this contract, this first contract in Lordstown. Now the next round of bargaining in Big 3, that work will be under our master agreement where we can complete the task. But this is why this battery is very important, where we're going. There's 6 current plants. We represent one of them. This is where it's headed. There's 26 more plants within the next 5 years that will be up and running. So if you don't think organizing the EV battery industry is important, that's just the battery plants alone. So if you don't think this is important, think again. If we don't get that work, you know, we're going to have a hell of a fight on our hands. So that, when you hear about this and people say, you know, why is this important? Why does this matter? Why are you going to invest this money in organizing? I mean, that's a picture. That's current state, and that's where it's headed. You know, also, our research team, you know, evaluates the supply chain. This is to look at the EV supply chain. Now, you notice when you look at Region 8, all that light blue color down there, that's all supply chain businesses that are going to be built or are being built right now in this region. We got to get it. You know, we got to go after that work. You know, and this is, you know, when we talk about organizing the 10 major non-union auto plants, this tells a real telling. It's the same story. You know, we talked in the Big 3 about how the Big 3 made $250 billion in the last decade. These are the top 10 non-union automakers in this nation that are non-union. They generated $12 trillion in revenue in the last decade, over $1 trillion in total profit. And there's a reason we're doing that. You know, it's International Solidarity Day. We're encouraging not just other unions in this country to work with us and fight for that, but also globally. And, you know, if COVID pandemic taught us anything, there was a silver lining in the COVID pandemic for as bad as it was. And that's this. You know, there was a lesson in there about the power we have as working class people. You know, during that pandemic, fast food workers, they stayed home. They said, screw this, I'm not going to go to work and flip burgers for 10 or 12 bucks an hour. And what happened? Wages started going up to $20, $25 an hour at McDonald's and places like that because they needed workers. That is a lesson in the power that we have as working class people. When we withhold our labor, nothing moves. Nothing in this country and nothing in this world. The billionaire class, the corporate class can build all the factories they want. They can create all the businesses they want. If there ain't workers there to do the work, they ain't going to make a damn thing. That's the power we have. So May Day 2028, that's what that's about. It's about taking back our power as working class people, not just here, all over the globe. So we're trying to get other people in line with that and keep moving forward. So I know I've ran this thing on way the hell longer than any of you probably expected, but I think it's important to talk about these things. But, you know, in closing, I do want to say a few things. You know, Director Smith and I, you know, we have another thing in common, and that's a strong faith in God. And, you know, my decision to run for president of the UAW, it was an act of faith. You know, let me assure you this. I woke up the morning that I decided to do this, and I actually took a week because I had some things happen with my superior prior to that and pissed me off. And I told my superior at the time, I'm going to take a vacation. And she thought I was going to quit. And she told me, like, please, before you make a decision, let me know. I don't want you to quit. And I'm thinking in my mind, if you think I'm quitting, you don't know me very well. But I had to think about what I wanted to do in the future. And, so I went back to Indiana. I stayed at my mom's house for like 5 days. And I woke up about the fourth morning, and I was doing my daily reading and praying. And, I looked in the mirror. And when I was looking in the mirror, I asked myself, I said, if you don't do anything in this moment, 10 years from now, will you be able to look yourself in the mirror and be happy with that decision? And I knew right then, no, I wouldn't. And then I had to ask myself about my faith. Because you know what? We always say that, Christians or whoever, you say, oh, I have faith, Saying you have faith and really living faith can be different, Truly believing, truly having faith is stepping outside your comfort zone and doing something people may think you're crazy for doing. But understanding that no matter the outcome, you're good with it. And so I made a decision that morning when I had to ask myself, do you truly believe and do you truly have faith? And I said, you know what? I'm doing this. I'm going to run for president of the UAW, and I'll take whatever comes. If I lose, I'll sleep just fine at night knowing that I did what I could do in this moment. And, I tell you, when I walked out and talked to my mother to tell her I was going to run for president of UAW, my own mother said, are you sure you want to do that? I mean, but it was an act of faith, and so, when I was sworn in as president, I made a commitment to myself and to this membership that I was going to do everything in my power to put the membership and represent this membership the best I could. And I made a decision when I took over. I moved some people out, and I brought some new people in, and I caught a lot of help for some of those moves. But I'll tell you, there's a reason why I did it. Some of these people that I brought in from the outside, they're some of the best in the labor movement at what they do. They had a history of winning and organizing in comms and in strategizing stuff. And so, when I looked at that, I knew my limitations. I know what I know. And any good leader ought to know what your limits are and what you do know. And you ought to surround yourself with people that know what you don't know, to make you better. And I knew in this UAW, a lot of us, we came up the same way, through the same system, doing the same thing over and over again. And so I thought it was important to bring in some outside people that had a different set of eyes, a different way of looking at things, and combine that with the people that know the UAW and what we do. And I think that's resulted in what we're seeing now. I mean, I brought in a guy named Ben Dichter to lead our legal strategy and bargaining. And he's going to be here at Volkswagen with the bargaining. He's a badass. The guy's amazing. He crafted the terms of surrender in the Big Three contract, where the companies we have documents at all three of the Big Three titled Terms of Surrender, and it says Terms of Surrender of the plants, and it has the plants listed that were on strike, and where workers got paid for being on strike. That's never happened in this union, and that's because of the work of Ben Dichter. I brought in a guy named Chris Brooks as my chief strategist, and although I had a vision of where we needed to go as a union, I needed someone to come up with a strategy on how we get there. And Chris, everything we've done with bargaining, with our contract campaign, with organizing, he's been the brains behind a lot of that. Jonah Furman I brought in for our communications team. Anybody up here will tell you, that dude, I mean, our comms team went from being a reactive team that literally our past PR would wait for something bad to happen, then react in the press. Now we're aggressive. We're on the offensive in comms. We're putting the narrative out there. We're taking it on. And you see videos like with Eddie Laughlin and, videos during bargaining and different stuff, videos in organizing. That's the work of our comms team. We put the membership front and center. And that strategy can never be more important. And the one testament to that is when 75% of Americans supported us in our fight, when you have 75% of America on your side, that means your comm strategy is there. That means you're kicking ass. And I brought in Brian Shepard to head up organizing, and we just won one of the biggest organizing wins we've ever had in the history of this union in Volkswagen, and I'll let that speak for itself. So, like I said, I brought in outside people, combine that with those of us that know the system, and we've seen some of the best results we've seen, but we got a lot more to do. And, all these actions I've taken are for one reason, because our membership deserves the best. And they deserve the best results, they deserve the best reps, and as long as I'm president, that's a commitment to the membership that I'm going to make. And these results, I think, speak for themselves. We've done more in a year, literally, than we've done in decades. And we bargained record contracts. We've won in organizing. We're organizing at a record rate. The UAW is relevant again. We are a player nationally. Yeah. We are a player nationally. We're a player globally now. Everyone's looking to us. And so we have to keep the pedal to the metal. We have to fight like hell in every area of our lives, as if our lives depend on it, because our lives do depend on what we do every day. And this morning, when I was looking out over the beach, it took me back. It's kind of funny how things work, but 33 years ago, I'd met my first wife. We didn't even know each other a month probably, and I wanted to impress her. So we came to Florida. My grandparents lived in Leesburg, Florida, which is in the center of the state. But we drove over here to Treasure Island at that time. I didn't have a pot to piss in, no money. I actually borrowed some money to be able to bring this woman I wanted to impress down to Florida. And, we spent a day at the Bilmar. We spent a night at the Bilmar Hotel back then and sat on the beach. And so I was sitting up there looking at the beach this morning when I was praying, and it just hit me. I thought back to that moment and thought, it's amazing the journey that we get on, because, I was struggling back then. I mean, I was laid off. I wasn't in the UAW yet. I was on unemployment a lot. I was on government aid. When we had our first child, we went on WIC to get formula and diapers for my firstborn child. I know struggle. I know what it is to struggle to get by paycheck to paycheck. I've lived it. I've lived it a lot in my life. And I don't forget that. That's what drives me, and that's what makes me want to do. That's what drives this fight we're in now, is to not make anyone go through that shit. No one should have to go through that. It's tough. But those trials molded me into who I am today. And it's funny how that hit me this morning when I was looking out there at the beach. And my daily reading today, this morning, it was a great reminder of that. I talk about time a lot. And time is our greatest resource, but we got to use it wisely. But my daily reading this morning was Ecclesiastes 7:2, where it says, "Death is the destiny of everyone. The living should take this to heart." We have a limited amount of time on this earth, people. And I say this all the time. This is our generation's defining moment. In this moment, we got to do all we can do to turn this thing around. And we can't waste a moment's time. And I go back to our mission here, when the lawyer in Matthew, when the lawyer tested Jesus and said, what is the most important commandment? And, it was interesting, looking at that. I mean, you think about this. The forces that divide us, they divide us by any means necessary so they can walk away with the profits and while we're all scrambling and get left behind. And, there are forces in this nation who wrap themselves in an American flag and they wave their Bibles around, all in the service of hoarding more wealth for themselves while the working class people struggle. We have a political party in this nation that likes to hijack religion and claim they're the party of faith, where everything pretty much they stand for on a platform is contrary to that. But our faith says something else. Our faith reminds us of our obligation to humanity. And that's where I'm getting to with Matthew 22:35 through 40, where, that lawyer asked Jesus, which commandment is the greatest? And I love Jesus' answer in this because he said, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, and all your soul. But then he goes on and says, and the second one is like that. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Love your neighbor. Don't mean your next door neighbor. It means your fellow human being. Love them like you love yourself. It didn't say, love only Americans. It said your fellow human being. Don't matter where they come from, no matter what color they are, none of that matters. It's a human being, and we got to love each other. That, and he closes that by saying, on these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. All the law. So think of that. All of the law hangs on loving your God and loving your fellow human being. And every religion I know, when you got a political party that's trying to claim religion, every religion that I know of is founded in love of your fellow human being. Every religion is founded in that. Not in exploiting masses while enriching yourself. So we are on the right side in this battle. And love is where faith of the working class is rooted. So it's up to us how we use our time and how we approach our mission in leading this righteous cause, because we're bringing social and economic justice to working class people all over this world. That's the mission. It's not just about us. It's not just about the UAW. It's about the entire working class, union or not. It's not just about our generation. It's about our kids' and grandkids' generation, what we want for them. It's about all of humanity, whether from the U.S., whether from Mexico, whether from Brazil or anywhere else in the world. We have an obligation to humanity, and it's labor's obligation to lead this fight. It's up to us to bring back the American dream. This is our generation's defining moment. We are in it. My grandparents' generation had that moment after the Depression, when the labor movement exploded in the 30s and 40s and 50s. We are at one of those moments again. We haven't had one really like that since then. This is it. So, my question for you is, are you ready? Are you ready to seize this moment and fight for humanity like we never have in our history? In 1 year, we've eliminated can't and fear from our vocabulary, and we have moved mountains. But we got more mountains to move. So I thank you all for your work. I thank you all for your fight. I thank you all for getting involved. I encourage you to get more involved and be in this fight. And let's be ready to stand up as a united UAW and a united movement. So thank you for letting me be here.
Yeah, brother. Sorry, man.
No, hey, the message has to be delivered, and you delivered it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, what a speech.